Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. We want you to be returned to the reception and the festivities as quickly as possible, but we would be remiss if we didn't have just a few remarks to commemorate what is for PSSI its 20th anniversary year. And we're very proud of the fact that we've kept this little shop a going concern over this period. And this is also the occasion of our 6th Space Security Conference. We began this series in 2011, just 1 year after establishing a space security program at PSSI, which to my knowledge is the first of its kind in the think tank world, not just Europe, but elsewhere, including, surprisingly, the United States as well. We have believed that pursuing space security should be a straight line. As you know, back in 2010, 2011, this area received scant attention. Well, it reminds me a little bit of cybersecurity, which 10 and 11 years ago was an asterisk compared to what it is today. And we think that space security is ultimately on that kind of trajectory, where particularly as war is ravaging the continent of Europe on an unprovoked basis, it really brings it home how vulnerable we all are, particularly in terms of space-based services and how key they are to our day-to-day lives. Obviously, we've had to worry a lot about Russian cyber, but also we've watched what's happened to the International Space Station, and this is more emblematic of what's ahead. Our Chinese friends, as you know, are very ambitious in their own counter space activities. They're very keen on recruiting as many countries as possible to their side, if you will, in multilateral fora. They're doing this through offers that countries can't refuse in vertically integrated packages, for example, that we'll be talking about in the context of this conference. What we like to think of as the ground-based space race being played out in the economic and financial domain. It's an area that most people haven't paid much attention to, but we have, and the results of our research findings, believe me, are especially troubling, particularly when we look at our commercial companies and their chance to be exporters in the international space arena. You know, our Chinese friends and the Russians, for that matter, specialize in sole source contracts and trying to capture the space sectors of, shall we say, less developing or less developed countries that are more financially pressed and even non-credit worthy than most. So these are kind of examples of what we hope to accomplish this round. And I'd like to particularly thank those Czech ministries whose auspices we're under for these proceedings. Mr. Jan Lipovsky, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who we'll be hearing from, is a proud PSSI alumnus, as was the previous foreign minister, I'm pleased to say. And so we've had some of our more illustrious graduates, if you will, that have gone on to key positions in the Czech Republic. We likewise want to thank Mr. Martin Kupka, who is the Minister of Transportation, and Ms. Jana Chernohova, who is the Minister of Defense. All of them have been kind enough to offer their auspices for these proceedings, and you couldn't ask for a host country to step up the way the Czech Republic has stepped up for us, not just this occasion, but consistently throughout the series. And even going beyond the call of duty, we're having our proceedings take place at the magnificent Chernin Palace, the home of the Foreign Ministry itself. So we're very proud and pleased with our Czech government partners. And we also want to give some thanks to our sponsors, that have, in some cases, traveled great distances, notably our Japanese friends, but also those folks that have come from the U.S. and elsewhere to be with us today. In that connection, our partner organization in Washington, PSSI, Washington tried to contribute here, as has the Baud Foundation, the Dry Schwestern Foundation, the Mitsubishi Electric, IHI Aerospace, NEC Corporation, Comstock, Amazon Web Services, Lindquist, and our media partner, Spacewatch Global. So we offer hearty thanks to all of those players for helping make this possible. And again, in the spirit of our 20 years of being in this business, trying to bring in a kind of an American-style think tank to our Czech friends who have taken it from there, so to speak, and have carried this to remarkable lengths. One person who's been with us since the inception is with us tonight, Mr. Jiří Schneider, Ambassador Jiří Schneider, who began with us almost at the inception, and if not the inception in 2002, certainly very soon thereafter. He served as first deputy foreign minister of the Czech Republic from 2010 to 2014, if I've got that right. Prior to that time, he was ambassador of the Czech Republic to Israel from about 1995 to 1998, if I've got that right. And then was our program director. We were good enough to have Jiří on site between the years of 2005 and 2010, after which he went on to run Aspen, Central Europe operation, and is now, if I've got this right, the lay monitor of the Czech Protestant Church. And probably that has something to do with his University of Cambridge religious studies, one of his degrees, but we'll let him speak to that. So I just want to basically thank all of our legacy players, but particularly Jiří for his mentoring of some of our most successful graduates. And he's a dear friend, and it's with great pleasure that I introduce Jiří Schneider.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Roger, for your kind words. I'm here to remind you about how it came to this success of already 6th edition of the Space Conference. Congratulations to all who are participating in this. When I joined PSSI 17 years ago, I was with PSSI closely since inception, but I joined PSSI 17 years ago. I decided to leave foreign ministry for a while because I published a study on think tanks. And I said, I have to go to live in think tank and not just to write about it. So I joined PSSI. I'm grateful to these years. At that time, I was partly wrong because I did a study about role of think tanks, growing role of think tanks in our world. And we put a cartoon to that, which said, no tanks, but think tanks. I'm afraid I was wrong. When we look eastwards to Ukraine, tanks are sadly still relevant. But think tanks are also relevant because, as we know, and I was glad that I was at the first space conference 2011 when I was at the foreign ministry, because I'm deeply convinced that the two domains which are now considered as domains for NATO, cyber and space, are equally important as the three traditional domains. And especially for a landlocked country, which doesn't have access to sea, there's a big challenge. And there used to be a slogan in this country in 20s and 30s. air is our sea. It actually led many young men to join the Air Force. And they served very well in the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. So our claim is space is our sea now. And I'm glad to see some Czech friends who are joining this effort on the business side, but also on the government side. I think this is the way how Central European country with no access to sea can contribute to the global security. I'm happy that just recently a Czech company was successful in getting a deal in a space industry, reconnaissance. My first education is I was in surveying, and so I know what the distance surveying from space means to security. I would like to mention one name which wasn't mentioned, but it's, I think, inscribed in the PSSI history, and it's Olda Czerny, who is not with us. We have a PhD program which is in his name, but Olda Czerny was a founder of this enterprise here in Prague. He was advisor to President Havel when we had an honorable president at the time. He was a national security advisor. He was a head of foreign intelligence for a certain part. And then he actually created two very important think tank enterprises, and one of them was PSSI. So I just want to remind him I am incredibly indebted to Olda, what he did. I would like to open this conference. Wish you a success. I hope you'll be able to set the rules for space, which is in our interest. We should be rule setters in this important domain, and I hope the Prague conference will be another step in this direction. Thank you very much for coming.